And here in the United States, Americans have the right to worship freely. It's a fundamental human right. It's called the First Amendment. However, cults still create a lot of controversy. So joining me now live is cult expert Steve Hassan. Mr. Hassan, you are a cult expert. So what do you think about this, the tightening of the, I guess, so to speak, the belt when it comes to cults and their practices over there in Russia?
Well, I'd say basically I'm against the idea of banning any group, and I'm certainly a spiritual, religious person myself and don't want to engage in persecution. On the other side of the equation, as a former cult member myself and a mental health professional who's been helping people for 30 years, I think there are behaviors that some of these destructive cults engage in, such as fraud, such as outright deception, such as encouraging people not to get medical treatment, like the Jehovah's Witnesses don't believe in blood transfusion. And, you know, the law is very clear that, at least in the area of young people, that they should get blood transfusions. And the issue for me, if someone is getting approached by Jehovah's Witnesses, is that people should know up front exactly what this group is, what they believe, the fact that their Bible is not the same Bible that everyone else uses, and that there should be some mechanisms in place, I believe, to protect the citizens of Russia, as I do believe that there should be better mechanisms in the U.S. But on the other hand, I have a problem with banning.
Okay, Mr. Hassan, just as a point of clarification, or at least for my own edification, what cult was it that you were a part of, and what sort of practices did you deem as dangerous or maybe even harmful to you as a result of practicing in that cult?
Yeah, I was involved in the Moonies in the 70s for several years, and I became a recruiter and a leader in the group. A tremendous amount of deception. If people came up to me and said, "We want to invite you to a church," then I would have said, "I'm Jewish, I'm not interested." But they said, "Oh no, we're not religious at all." And I had just broken up with my girlfriend, and 3 women were flirting with me, giving me the impression they wanted to have a relationship with me, and not telling me that Moon is the Messiah and that he would choose who we're going to marry and do a mass wedding, etc. There's a lot of human rights violations and destructive cults. My website is freedomofmind.com, and I have a list called the BITE model of mind control. The B stands for controlling people's behavior. I is information control, thought control, and emotional control. And I basically believe in the idea of free will, that people should be able to choose and have their own freedom to join a group or freedom to leave a group. And I do believe that psychological abuse techniques are used by the more destructive cult groups.
Okay, Mr. Hassan, you kind of touched upon these tactics that, in the end, may actually do more harm than good. But as you had mentioned also earlier, you kind of have to allow for religious freedom too. At least in this country, you have to.
Oh, absolutely.
So there's a fine line there, isn't there? I mean, and how do you?
Well,
you know, compromise
for me in the United States, one of the big issues is what I believe a group should not get tax exemption status if they can be proven a systematic fraud of their members or a violation of their human rights. So I would like to see some mechanism in the United States to police the activities, not the beliefs, but the behaviors of some of these groups. On the other side of the equation, I'm against banning groups because they have odd, weird beliefs, and they have leaders who say they're the Messiah. I think people have the right to believe weird things. Okay. The key for me is having the free will to make an informed consent decision.
Cult expert Steve Hassan, thank you so much for joining us today.